Audio rolling.
Good on audio.
Beautiful. All right, let's get it going.
All right.
What's going on, man? Thanks for coming to
Dude,
chat today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is cool. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is the people's second. Love that.
Shout out to LA.
Literally. So I guess this is the second interview that we've done so far, and really I think what I'm trying to kind of convey through all of this is just to dive a little bit deeper into like topics that we all struggle with as creative individuals, and kind of just demystify them a little bit more. I think a lot of people feel certain things, especially I think this year people have felt a lot of things that are, might have been the first time they felt these certain things. And I think you and I have one commonality, and that's we've been doing this for a while. And like, I think we can shed a lot of light on what we've learned over, that time period, and also like kind of our outlook on things and how we kind of, essentially just with the normal feelings of being a creative individual,
Yeah,
especially
totally.
in 2020. But before we get started talking,
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of dive into you and a little bit of your backstory and what you
Cool.
do currently.
Yeah. I don't think I've even told you this story really, have I? Like fully.
Maybe, I think you've told me like
A
half
little
of
bit?
it, maybe.
Yeah. So I went to school for graphic design. And so after I graduated school, I spent pretty much all my time doing graphic design. Working at startup companies, and that was like my world, was like tech companies, apps, graphic design. I love that stuff. But on the side, I was always interested in video and shooting video. And I'd say maybe like when I was probably I'm old now. I'm about 30. When was I? How old was I? I was like 27 or so. I had been doing graphic design and tech stuff for a while, and on the side, I just really started to get interested in shooting video, and I just didn't really have a place to put it. And I'd say right around then, I'm 34 now, but right around 27 or so is when I started to get kind of excited on just kind of filmmaking and learning about filmmaking, browsing YouTube, just seeing what kind of stuff people were creating. And I've always been like super passionate about traveling. And so basically I started going on trips. And in my free time, while I was working at these tech companies, I would shoot random YouTube videos and put them up online. And from there, I kind of started to see like an audience slowly starting to build up. But it was kind of cool because I wasn't really trying to be anything. I feel like at that time, there wasn't really like an influencer, so to say. That whole world wasn't really a thing. So for me, like YouTube was just like a random place to upload videos. Like I remember like even posting stuff to Vimeo. I was like, I don't know where to put all this stuff, but I want to put like some of these videos I'm making. I want to share some of these stories with my family and friends of like where I'm going to. And I was really into traveling, and I wanted to tell like meaningful travel stories, and I wanted to put like voiceover and all this other stuff into it. So yeah, I started to do the whole YouTube thing, and I did that for a while, and it was pretty cool. Like I started to see the subscribers like slowly start to build up, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. People are watching this stuff. Like watching my dumb videos, like this is insane. And I just got really excited. I mean, I was like in crush mode. Every week I was uploading. I was like super excited, planning trips, bringing a camera everywhere I went. And then I did that for probably I think it was probably 2 years until I got hit up by this travel magazine called Matador Network, and they wanted to hire me and bring me on as like a full-time travel filmmaker. And I think for me that was like a crazy point because my entire experience has been at like tech startups and graphic design. And then when that happened, I was like, wait, what? Like I didn't go to school for this stuff. I learned on YouTube. Like I'm not a pro at any of this stuff. And then I took the job, and then I left the kind of tech graphic design stuff and worked for Matador Network, and I was there for like 3 or 4 years. And got to travel to a bunch of really cool places. I mean, it's crazy to think, like, it was almost like a dream opportunity when I got this job. I was like, this is just mind blowing. And when that happened, I kind of stopped working on a lot of my own personal stuff because I was spending so much time traveling and shooting. And there's kind of this weird shift too. I noticed, like, I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes when like something's your hobby and then it turns into your job, sometimes the way you think about it changes a little bit.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of an interesting dynamic when you're editing and shooting all week long. Sometimes the idea of like shooting more on the weekends, I was kind of like, ooh, that sounds like a lot. Like I'm already pretty tired, but anyways, I worked at Matador Network for a while, and then like last summer or so, I was kind of like looking for something new and exciting to do, and I saw there was an opening at Moment, and so I joined Moment last last June or something like that. And yeah, I've been at Moment now for about a year and a half. And yeah, it's been super, super fun and exciting. I met you earlier this year because I work on the lessons team. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know Moment, but we do a bunch of different things. But the team that I'm on does online lessons. So we've been filming a bunch of online lessons. I think we've done like 10 of them or something like that in the last year.
And what people don't understand about these lessons too, like, well, in general, just online courses, online education is, it takes so much time. Like, it's an unfathomable amount of time to someone who hasn't done it before. And so, the more and more that you do it, obviously, like, it's incredible to see how efficient you guys have gotten at it, because even doing online courses myself through my own channels, like, it's a ridiculous amount of work. And, I think, yeah, that's how you and I met originally. I feel like even more so, like, I love that we can just have a conversation outside of, working, which is always a good sign, and yeah, that's so rad. I remember first time I ever met some of the guys at Moment, it was when they had four employees, I think, and I was a freshman in high school. Like, it was pretty wild. Like,
so crazy.
And to see them then versus now is just incredible. It's a testament to the way that they do things, and obviously things are working out well. But what you would say, like, a typical day for you, for the most part, is either you're conceptualizing lessons, editing lessons, or maybe you're traveling to go shoot a lesson for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Moment is not a huge company by any means. Like, the team that my coworker Niles and he and I are the ones that shoot and edit all the lessons. It's only two of us. So we also have somebody else that helps us as well, Emily, but like, the shooting and editing part is just us two. And so we pretty much do this whole spectrum of stuff. We talk to creators, we come up with the curriculum. A lot of times we work with them on the curriculum, we shoot it, we edit it, like, the whole process is us. So we're wearing a bunch of hats. It's like you're the sound guy, you're the filmmaker, you're the producer, you're the writer, you're doing a bunch of different roles. But yeah, my week changes. Typically, we'll work on planning these lessons. We'll talk to the creator, then we'll go off and shoot the lesson. And then a good chunk of time that I guess a lot of people don't realize is coming home and editing them. Because a lot of these things, like when we shot the lesson with Andy 2 right after yours in February, we were in Japan for 5 days. And the amount of footage coming home to that is like, you have two cameras,
it's ridiculous,
5 days, shooting
so many
all
audio
day
channels.
long.
Yeah.
You like open up the hard drive and there's like 20 hours of footage, and you're like, oh my God, I need to turn this into something that people actually pay for. And it actually has like meaning to it, and it's interesting that people will actually watch. And yeah, so a mix of all of those things is kind of my normal.
Well, how long have you been in LA now? Roughly?
I've been in LA for 9 years.
Okay, yeah.
Been here a while.
That's also something I wanted to talk to you about, because I mean, I'm obviously been 9 years, but I'm coming up on 3 years now living here, and I feel like it'd be cool to get you to talk about, like, what you feel like has been worth it about living here, because I think a lot of people move here or think about moving here, and for one reason or another, they don't really feel like it's benefited them in some way. And I personally believe that when you move to a place like LA, or this is probably pretty similar with New York as well, you have to know what you want to get out of it. Yeah. You can't just let it really fall in your lap. Like, you could very easily get sucked into something that you don't want to be doing. And I think living in LA, if you are focused and you kind of understand the genre of stuff that you want to be doing, like, it can be a really beneficial place. But what do you feel like has been kind of the most beneficial part of you living here?
I think what I really love about LA, because I kind of I graduated from school and got like right into the startup entrepreneurial world. And for me, I really like surrounding myself with people that are doing things, like really going after anything, like whether it's starting a company, or they want to be a photographer, they want to be a model, or they want to be a musician or whatever. I like being around people that have a drive. And there's just something about being in LA that I don't see in a lot of other places. I've lived in a few different states, but there's something about being in LA where everyone, like, to thrive in LA, you have to grind here. Because if you come here to coast, I feel like it will spit you out, and you'll come here and you'll be like, I hate this place, I'm never coming back. But if you come here and you're like willing to grind, I feel like you can really meet a bunch of different people that can help you get to where you want to go. And it's just a place to, network and connect with people. And yeah, like I said, you just have to come here with the right mindset. If you're coming to hang out and just chill at the beach, it's probably not the city for you. Like, it's just the prices are high. It's expensive. It's just, it's a place to come to like really pursue something.
Definitely. And I would say networking is working here, obviously not this year really, but I think networking here is just such an incredible opportunity because, you know, there's that saying that like you're one person away from knowing most people here. And it really is truly like there's some people here that you can very, very easily get into contact with. And a lot of people that I've met here that are farther along than me are quite honestly like more often than not like an open book of, you know, how they've gotten to where they're at. They share their mistakes. And I think that culture of like being able to surround yourself with people that are so much better than you is a huge part of why I love it here so much. Is the, you know, the opportunity to feel like you can grow and you're not going to be limited by literally anything. You know, you have the entirety of the city at your disposal. You know, and that's really exciting.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, it's hard to think for me about living anywhere else because I am so attached to it here. I mean, it's also, you know, aside from the work and the drive, there's just you have access here to kind of do anything you want to at any time of day. I mean, you could drive out to the desert in a couple hours. You can be at the beach. You can be, I know there's some people that do like the whole thing where they like, I've never done it before, but you can like go surfing in the morning and then you can like go to Big Bear and go snowboarding the same day, which sounds crazy. But yeah, there's just so much access, music, amazing food. Yeah, but it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. And yeah, I mean, like this is the third state that I've lived in now, and it's definitely the most different from where I grew up, for sure. But I think over the last several years, I've really come to love it here. Honestly, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I think the one thing I always tell people, just to like put a little note on LA, I think it's a place that you need to come with like knowing somebody. Like if you just show up here as a tourist, most people will hate this city because they'll go to Chinatown or whatever and see the Hollywood sign and they'll see the Chinese theater and all that. And they'll be like just sitting in traffic the whole time. They'll be like, this place sucks. I'm never coming back. It's trashy. It's gross. But being here for 9 years, I've now realized that every neighborhood in LA is so much different, and you really need to find like the neighborhood that fits your style. So if you come here and you are looking for like a more mellow vibe, then that's a different neighborhood than, you know, maybe you come here and you're like, I want to be around Hollywood and I want to be around actors and, you know, clubs and all this other stuff. Or maybe you want to hang out by the beach, and that's like, they're completely different worlds. Like the people I've met that live in Venice or Santa Monica, Los Feliz, Silver Lake, it's just like it might as well be a different city. It's like not even the same place.
Oh yeah, I look at it as a completely different. Like it's such a 180 from each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been really fun. It's been cool. Like honestly, I probably wouldn't have met you nearly as quickly as I did. Yeah. Like not living here, you know, and I met a lot of really incredible people here, as I'm sure you have as well. I wanted to kind of transition this a bit into kind of. You chatted a little bit about like the beginnings of, you know, what you are now doing for your career, and, you know, a little bit of backstory for me as well. Like, I mean, I started photography when I was 15, so it was like 9 years ago now, and it's been quite the ride for me as well to, you know, just to get to where I'm at now. And I really think you and I can have a really kind of candid conversation about what it was like back then, and less about like what we were making rather than like the mindset that we had versus now. Because I think a huge thing that people struggle with right now, especially with how much is on the internet nowadays, is feeling like they have to live up to some sort of, you know, preset expectation that they have for themselves or that other people might have for them. And, you know, it's kind of chasing this, it's honestly like a fear of not being perfect, you know, like that, like when you're releasing things into the wild west, which is the internet, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, website, even, you know, it's open for critique. And a lot of the time people aren't looking for that, you know. And I think I can speak for myself first and foremost. Like when I first started, there wasn't really a lot of that. There was a very cool group of people that were just supporting each other, and it felt like you could really create with no boundaries, you know. And I wanted to get your thoughts on if you feel the same of kind of how that was, and then, you know, kind of how you've seen it transition a little bit over the years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel exactly the same. It's weird because in the last couple of years, like creating for myself, I feel like I have hit kind of a creative wall. But kind of like going back to where I started a little bit. Yeah, I remember when I was like first uploading to YouTube and really getting into like starting on YouTube, I was so excited. I would get so amped every week to like work on a video, get home from work and work on stuff and like upload it. And there wasn't a whole lot out there, so there was really nothing to compare it against. And so for me, I was just excited to create. And I just remember, I don't know, because there wasn't as much there, it changed my mindset a little bit. There just was nothing to compare it against. And, Yeah, I was so focused and excited. I don't know, there wasn't anything built up in my mind about what the expectations were of creating anything. And I feel like as the whole like YouTube and Instagram world started to explode more, the more stuff that came out there, I feel like the bar just kept getting higher and higher and higher. People started getting more, more talented. People started upping their gear. I mean, when I was starting off, it was like Ben Brown and Fun for Louie and stuff, and they were like shooting on PowerShot S120s or whatever, like little point shoot cameras. And then it seemed like within like 2 years, all of a sudden, people were like vlogging on Red cameras. It escalated so quickly, and then all of a sudden, that started this whole gear craze where it's like, I need a 1DX, I need the 85 1.4 Sigma, I need all of this stuff, and then that like catapulted into like the Sony stuff, A7S III, and all these mirrorless cameras and flip out screens. But it happened like so quickly.
Oh, so quickly.
Like so aggressively quickly.
I feel like something for me that I've noticed is with that gear trend, it's become so much less about what you're making rather than what you're making it with. And the fact of the matter is, if I shared something like a video or a photo, half the time I don't ever say what camera is shot on, and nobody ever gets it right because it frankly doesn't matter. Like people are not prioritizing the story and the quality of what they're doing. Even for example, the lighting and the audio. Like that matters so much more than any sort of camera that you're filming it on. And I do think that we're going to see kind of a interesting shift because people are dying to watch stories and like have a really interesting storyline and well thought out, films and photography. And I think the whole gear craze is really it's bumming people out. It's not giving people as much like fulfillment as it did in the beginning because I think technology is hitting somewhat of a plateau with the cameras.
Totally.
These cameras can film.
They're all great now.
Yeah, they're all great. You can't go wrong anymore. People wonder what the best camera is. It literally whatever you can afford because it's all good now. And I think that really honestly plays a huge part of why a lot of people feel so uninspired right now. And they don't feel like they can create the best stuff because they don't have the best equipment. And, this is the day old saying of like, we say this all the time to other people and we try to reassure ourselves of this. But at the end of the day, it's hard to feel like the gear isn't limiting you, as an artist. And it's only hard because you see all of these films and, photography workflows created with gear that you don't have, and it's just that fear of you don't have it. But then the reality of it is, and I've been there, you buy that piece of equipment and it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything at all. And I hope that people in the future really start to kind of take that to heart and understand that like it's so much more important to preserve the story than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every creator, at least a lot of the people I know, have all gone through that same phase with gear of, the first year or two you get into stuff. I mean, I'm still like that in some ways, but you spend, 200 hours researching. You're doing like a thesis on this lens that you saw or this camera body and all these like little settings and things. And then you order it and you're sitting there tracking it every other hour until it arrives and you're like, yes, I'm finally getting this lens. You shoot like your 4-day-old In-N-Out cup on your desk for 5 or 10 minutes and you put the lens in the closet and then you never do anything with it and you're like, got a sick lens, never used it. But it's just like, I feel like that happens so much. I know so many people that have like bought random stuff. Like I bought a slider because I saw some guy using it and then they're like, I never used it again.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a shame. And it's tough too because everyone kind of goes through this phase, and I know it's been said online so many times before, like gear doesn't matter and stuff, but it's crazy how much more important now down the road in my filmmaking career. Like I would say learn, how to do different things like you're saying, like lighting and audio. And not only that, just learn how to use the settings on the camera that you have, because that was one thing that I didn't really think about too much. I kind of just would like get the camera, set it up, and at first at least, and not think too much about the aperture and the settings and stuff. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I would have changed the picture profile and adjusted the settings, used the proper shutter speed, used ND filters, like it's like it looked like two separate cameras. Like you just went from a pro camera to like an amateur.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, they almost don't want to spend the time to understand what they already have, because it's that mindset of, oh, well, if I just buy this, it'll already look better. And the reality of it is it's not. You can throw so many cameras on camera mode. They're going to look very similar, Yeah, and I think this plays into a lot of what kind of you and I think have talked about even a little bit before this this sit down chat of like, it's really changed a lot in terms of how we anticipate and how we feel about releasing things that aren't as polished as maybe we want them to be, or we look at somebody else, what somebody else has done, and it instantly makes us feel like what we've done isn't good enough, you know? And I think it's really important for people to understand that, you know, I myself go through that all the time. You know, like there's no bounds to this feeling. And I think everyone at every single level, in some sense, feels that kind of uneasy feeling because, you know, for one reason or another, they don't feel like it's good enough, you know, like what they're making. And what people need to understand more so, I think, going forward is that it's so important to just make stuff and learn from it. And the only way you're going to learn from it is if you kind of have like a backlog of what you've made, you know, and people shouldn't be afraid to share things on the internet. The internet is not, you know, the end all be all portfolio.
Yeah.
You can update things. You
Yeah,
can change your style.
Yeah,
you can,
for sure.
you can learn new techniques.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think people should look at it more as like, this is a building block to,
Totally.
to what I can make in the future, you know?
Yeah. The comparison stuff is so tough. Like I've struggled with that, and it's crazy. The last like 7 years now, or 6 years, whatever it's been, like working in like a professional environment and meeting a lot of really talented creators like you and a bunch of other people we've done lessons with. Like this is like a recurring theme across every person I've talked to. Like this whole comparison thing, like this video didn't get this many views, this didn't get that many likes, this person's video didn't do so well, this person doesn't have this many subs. Like it's like, personally, like I freaking hate that stuff so much because it limits people from creativity. Like when you get wrapped into that too much, you just stop creating, and you get yourself into such like a dark hole that you just like are like, all right, I'm just not going to do anything then. And it's like the death to creativity. So
yeah, you're essentially letting the numbers dictate what you decide to make.
Totally. And I think also going into whatever you're creating too, you should think about what you're looking for out of like what you're creating. Like when I started off, I wanted to do travel content, and that's what I did. I spent a bunch of time. I'd go to these places, and I was like, I don't want to just make meaningless vlogs. Like I care about travel more than just showing off of where I am. Like it was about learning about these different places. I want to know about India. I want to know about Rwanda. I want to understand these people. And so I spent a bunch of time putting effort into like voiceovers and made maps and did all this stuff to create these like really like almost like travel channel-esque type like series. And the toughest part for me was I ended up, a lot of people in the comments, it was never about like what were the people like in this part of India, what language did they speak. It was about, you know, what settings did you use for the camera, what were your drone settings, why does it look like this, how did you color grade it. And I remember being like, damn, that sucks. Like, that's not really the point of this video. And I made a couple videos in literally like half a day, put zero effort into them. One of them was like how to get the best settings for your drone. I was like, I'll give the people what they want, just see what happened. Video had like 200,000 or 300,000 views within a month or something like that. Made another one. It was like cinematic settings on your iPhone, like best cinematic settings to create stuff. 500,000 views like a year later. And it's just like, I remember that got to me so much because I was like, I put no effort into this video, zero effort. I literally gave this to the people just because they were asking for it, and it blew up. And then the stuff that I spent tons of time on didn't do so well.
Right. That's the struggle. You know, it's everything that you're passionate about is most likely not going to be the most viewed thing, and that's just the fact of the matter. You know, it's rough that it's so easily searchable, but I completely agree. Every video that I have taken less than a day to film are all my most popular videos. You know, it's never the stuff that I've put so much time and so much effort into. But I think it's interesting because, you know, unfortunately it's the stuff that sells, you know, and I think until we change that culture of like, it's the only thing that can, you know, blow up on the internet, you know, it's like, and the only thing that like people care about. Cause I'd like to think that there's people out there that really want to see that kind of stuff. They want to see the stuff with story. They want to see the well thought out, interesting ideas. And at the end of the day, like, that needs to change. You know, like people need to feel like that's what is, you know, the meaningful stuff that they're consuming, not, you know, buy this, buy that. Like you can't just keep being sold to over and over again, because eventually it's going to have no value when you're actually told to buy something, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you know, what's interesting too, is that like this way that we think is common across any type of creative role. Like even when I worked in graphic design, you present the client with this finished product that you're super proud of. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, the project comes to an end and it's this Frankenstein awful looking thing. You're like, what in the world is this? I'm not putting my name on this thing at all. Like, and it morphs into something else that they want. And at the end of the day, if you're like catering what you want towards somebody else, then it's obviously, you know, it's never going to be something that you're like super proud of. But I think it happens. I saw a thing that said, John Mayer, it was like an interview with him, and he was like, I love the guitar. I love doing like advanced guitar playing. I love, this stuff so much. But the songs that took off for me were these little poppy, simple songs that had like a few different chords, and that was it. And that's kind of what I like got known for, these poppy songs. But I like love the guitar. Like I'm a great guitar player, but this is what took off. And so I think it's common across all creative roles.
It transcends. It definitely transcends everything.
It's a struggle. So it's like, do I want to be like a fine artist who I'm like, I'm just going to make what I want. I don't care about anything else. Or then I can become like the sellout and be like, what do you guys want? I'll do whatever you need.
Exactly. Well, and then after a year or two doing that, like you're never going to be fulfilled with anything, you know?
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of transition just a little bit into like, I think the most popular things, especially when I think about, because I'm still honestly fairly new to YouTube, but the thing that I have noticed the most is once someone makes something that is popular, then it starts a trickle down of everybody making very similar things. And I think that's just such a toxic way to like create stuff, because you're not creating it for the right reasons. You're creating it because it's going to be popular, and I've definitely been guilty of this in the past, and it's not something that I'm proud of per se. And it's something that I definitely want to work towards, is really just making the stuff that I want to make, and I don't really know if there's a perfect way to go about that, because I think it's always an internal struggle of, I want to make this, but it's convincing yourself that, that's enough, like it's enough that you want to be doing it, and that's it, case closed. Like you're going to make it because you want to make it, especially as if you're doing your own thing, if you're working for yourself, like that's all that needs to happen, because at the end of the day, you want people and brands and potential clients to align with you for what you want to be doing precisely, and not, some carbon copy of somebody else's
For sure.
success.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with YouTube and filmmaking, 100%, like I guess in photography as well, but in filmmaking for me, I'm more of a filmmaker. I like to shoot every now and then, but I'm definitely leaned more towards filmmaker. But there's been so many crazy trends, like, there was the zoom in technique with like Sam Colder, and that got popular. And then this in-camera transition thing blew up, and everyone was doing those. And now I feel like the latest trend now is like FPV drones, and that's the thing. And yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff is cool, but for me, I think I've gone through a little bit of that phase playing with that stuff. And like you're saying, I think in some ways you'll never necessarily be as good as those initial videos that you saw, the guy that did it the first time. Like they always are going to be feel like they're better. And I just feel like it's such a better move to figure out what your own style is or what your unique thing is, instead of trying to copy someone else, because I feel like, I don't know, the copy never ends up feeling as good as the original. And so, and if you're doing it, then other people are doing it too. And it's just like, now you go online and it's like a lot of the travel videos, that's one thing that got to me too, is like the depth that I put into like a lot of the travel content I created and spent time on didn't blow up. And then I see these videos that are like montages of, I went to Cuba and 6-pack backflip off the back of a taxi. And I'm like, what is this? Like, it's just like, but those trends like pick up and they just explode, and like as soon as they take off, everybody else wants to do it too. And it's like, but yeah, I agree though. I mean, like I think the best thing to do is to kind of like find your own thing that makes you unique and special and try to stick with that. You're far better off. Your career will accelerate so much faster by finding something that is unique to you and creating that than trying to replicate somebody else's stuff.
So when we think about travel videos, and really anything on the internet that's kind of being copied over and over again, to me, what comes to mind is, how can I actually be unique? What's like some tangible advice that I give people and myself to feel like being unique, is what's actually going on. And, it's really easy to just say, oh, be unique, do your own thing. And, I've definitely been guilty of just telling people that on my YouTube channel all the time, look, be unique. But, being unique is actually really difficult, and I think it's very few people that actually succeed in doing that. Yeah. And I think the thing that I found that is the most helpful when you're looking to be unique is really just going back to like why you started doing things in the first place, and it's not fueled by a love of, getting a paycheck or being famous or well known on the internet. For the most people, it's a love of like the craft itself, and I think I have to remind myself of that with photography so much, because I remember like when I first started photography, all I cared about was just going out to do it for fun, and just take pictures. And like you said earlier, when money starts getting involved, it becomes a completely different thing, and it's not necessarily enjoyable at times. But I think for me, the easiest way to be unique is to continue to remind myself why I started doing this in the first place, and really kind of finding those values and like kind of put it into words of what actually do I find enjoyable about this, and I think if you can focus on the enjoyment and what that means to you, not to anybody else, like you're going to be able to find that, you're going to be doing things for the right reasons, and that will in turn make you unique. But I would love to hear you as well, if you had anything that you really kind of feel like has kind of struck you over the years of like, oh, this is actually really helping me, feel like I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say for sure, like my passion that I have for like, exploring other countries and traveling and whatnot and learning about different people, like that for me was something that I was so passionate about when I got into shooting videos. Um, I didn't come to it from a place of like, I want to turn this into a business or make money off this or be like a big YouTuber or like have a big travel show or anything. I was coming out of it just from a place of like enjoyment. Like I just like doing this. I like telling these stories. These are fun. This is a fun hobby. It's a fun project. And I was just like personally excited. It was me uploading every week was me just being excited about creating something and putting it out there. And like, it was kind of like just practice too. I was like, I look back on them now and they're like cheesy and stuff like that, but it's cool because it's like an evolution of my filmmaking career. And it was just like a way to practice. And I think that because of that mindset I had when I went into it, it just made me feel really good as I was creating. I'm not like creating for any specific reason. I think when people go into it and they're like, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to make money, I want to be like Peter McKinnon, I want to do these things, like I feel like that's a bad path to go down because like rarely will it work, and you'll also probably just get really angry and frustrated. But I think also that like about being unique, like I think when you meet people or you meet your friends, like each person has a few different things you could talk about that they're interested in. Like if you met me, you'd be like, oh, Mike likes traveling, he likes filmmaking, he likes whatever, shooting on film or whatever it is. And you're like, there you go. Those are three things that are unique about you. But going online and just creating something and being like, I'm going to do a coffee intro scene because that's what people on YouTube do. It's like, I don't know. I think that you just kind of end up blending in with everybody else, and it makes it a
It's
lot
harder
harder.
to stand out.
Yeah, you're not going to stand out like that. You just like find things that are unique about you. It's like, okay, like surfing. I'm a cycler, so I cycle on the weekends, and I like shooting film. Well, make that apparent like in your channel, and that's who you are. Now you have an identity and something that's unique about who you are, instead of just being like, I'm going to make filmmaking tutorials and pour coffee in them and stuff like that to try to be somebody else.
I agree. I think, yeah, I've struggled a lot with over the last year of, I really just, besides, doing the actual lessons where that's my focus, I don't really enjoy teaching on YouTube very much. And I think I found that pretty recently, that it's just not really like my cup of tea, to be honest. Like it's not as fun as I originally had anticipated. And a lot of that was fueled by me seeing tutorials on YouTube. I was like, oh, I mean, I could do this. Like I have knowledge to explain, but I think as I did it, I didn't really find much fulfillment with it. And I think we need to kind of like normalize just changing lanes, and being okay with switching things up. Because I think people tend to pigeonhole themselves into like one specific thing and genre and type of video, and even more specific things sometimes. And it's not a healthy way to live if you don't feel like you can, change things up and do a complete 180, and that's something that I really want to focus on a lot more. I think going forward is just really feeling I can try everything, and I would encourage everyone out there, even if you're wildly successful, if you're not feeling very fulfilled with what you're doing, it's time to switch things up. It's time to try something new, and it's time to really feel like you are, experiencing new things, and because you're never too like successful to learn something new, And I even think about moving to LA. Like I had no idea how to even work a video camera, and now like we're having this, and like I'm able to to do that. But that's only because I said to myself, look, I don't know how to do this, but like I would love to eventually at least understand the process, And I think a lot of people out there are actually wanting to try new things, but the reality of it is, on a YouTube channel specifically, people just want to see the same thing over and over and over again. Just slightly different, 1% different, And I think the more that you try just wildly different things from what you're used to be doing, what you are used to doing, it gets a lot more exciting. It gets a lot more fulfilling, and it gets a lot more like it feels like you're actually making progress with whatever you want to be doing.
Yeah. No, 100% true. I mean, I had a similar moment, like you're talking about the online like teaching on YouTube and stuff, the tutorials, and that was like the biggest moment for me. And it kind of like where I hit my creative wall, probably now 2 years ago with my own personal stuff. But that moment when I was like, oh, the travel stuff's not doing as well as the teaching is. And I got so angry because I was like, I don't think I want to be a teacher. Like, I don't know if I want to to teach things and get into like creating tutorials. Like it's just not really who I am, but it's doing really well. And those videos actually led to projects and free gear and that kind of YouTube path of growing a YouTube channel and stuff. And I was like, wow, okay, this is like pretty lucrative. And I just remember I struggled with it for so long. And I was like, do I want to do this or do I not want to? And I do like teaching. I don't mind teaching people stuff. I'm a pretty patient person. So for me, I never mind when friends are like asking me how to do stuff. So part of me was like, oh, maybe I should get into this kind of stuff. But then I was like, but that's not how I started the channel. And it's like you're saying, it's like, well, why does it matter if you change paths? Like you look at a lot of big YouTubers, and if you look at some of their early stuff, it might be completely different. You're like, whoa, this person did makeup tutorials, and now they're doing like something completely, or now they have a family or something. You're like, whoa, it's like totally different. So I don't know. I think we're all like extremely hard on ourselves. And that's like the hardest part of this whole process is like, we're so insanely hard on ourselves. We compare ourselves to so many different other people that you basically just end up feeling like crap. And then you're just like, forget it. I'm out. Like, I'm not going to create anything because everyone else rules. I suck. And I'm selling my camera on eBay.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think a lot of people who are watching this will probably relate to that, and myself included. And I really feel like you have to just allow yourself to like make things without having to worry to what people are going to think. And if that means even not sharing things, I know it's a crazy idea, but like, not putting things on the internet, just making things like, I don't know. That's where I find a lot of fulfillment is like just going out on photography trips and, just taking photos like for myself, with friends, and it's like, not everything has to be recorded, like not everything has to be captured. And, if you again, go back to like the reasons why you enjoy doing things, like it really kind of puts it into perspective of like what you actually want to be doing and why you want to be doing it. And, for me, like there's a time and place to have the camera rolling. Right. And there's a time and place in my own life, and I've set those boundaries. And I would encourage a lot of people out there too, if you're kind of unsure of where that you want to go in that direction, like really kind of define those boundaries of what you want to be sharing and how much of your life, how much of your life do you want to just have for yourself? Because it's perfectly normal and fine to not put everything on the internet, contrary to what you might see,
Totally. Yeah, no, I've actually, you talking about that reminded me like there's been a few different things that I've kind of like incorporated into my personal life now that I'm doing something that I love as a job. For me, like a lot of times because I'm using big expensive cameras all the time at work and on shoots and traveling with those as well, sometimes I'm like, oh, I should bring this on my personal trip with my girlfriend or with my friends or whatever to go places. But it got me in my like work mindset to where I'm like, here I am again, like taking 400 pictures and waking up at sunrise and sitting here adjusting the aperture. I'm like, dude, you do this all day long already. Forget this. So for me, honestly, I just started this year, but like shooting film has been great because I'll just bring a couple rolls of film with me when I go on a trip, and I'll be like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I took a couple pictures, like I'll see. And it's been like nice because it's been a creative release. It's kind of like you just snap the photo and it is what it is. So that's been pretty cool for me. I will also say that like in a weird way, for me, this might not be the case with everyone, but to get out of that kind of creative funk where you're basically just always in a rut and you're never able to actually create because you're just in your head, taking on projects, like paid projects, has been really healthy for me because sometimes they're not always necessarily the project that I want to be doing. But with a deadline, and even if you're getting $50 or $100 for a project, if there's some type of deadline attached that you need to deliver something for, it kind of, for me at least, forces me out of this like little funk to be like, I got to figure this out because this thing's due in a week, so, or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And so that's been pretty healthy in a way for getting me out of my funk, because then I'm like, I have to be creative. I have to get this done. Somebody's expecting this project. So I think for like maybe people that are just starting out or people that are in like a bit of a funk, like if it's, maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's not. I don't know, like if there's ways to either give yourself personal deadlines or, start working on some small projects or look for gigs, like just force yourself to create. Like creation is how you're going to get better. And if you're always just in your head, you're never going to get better. But if you, give yourself deadlines, or a client gives you deadlines, I feel like that's a way to actually continue to make sure that you're still creating. Like the amount of stuff I've created this year at Moment, in the last year and a half I've been at Moment, is like more than I ever have in my entire life. And it's just like, but each time I see myself getting a little bit better, but then I look at my personal stuff, I'm like, I've uploaded 6 photos to Instagram this year, or whatever it is, or 20 or something like that. And it's like, if you apply that same mentality to your own stuff, you could probably be creating 10x. But I don't know. That's been helpful for me, just like having that idea of like, you have to get this done. There's no option.
Yeah, definitely.
Self-discipline, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's like, it's having that willpower to just like kind of churn through it even when you don't feel like it, because creativity is a muscle, it really is. It's like, it needs to be practiced as regularly as possible. And it's, even if it's as simple as taking photos on a walk to get coffee, or like, it doesn't always need to be this big elaborate production. Like you said, especially like if I'm going on a trip with my girlfriend and we don't really have anything to like shoot, like I'm relaxing. I'm not, I'm taking very, very minimal photos, and it's like, it feels so good because you come back home and you're like ready to dive in. But if you're always wired to be making stuff and creating stuff, like you're gonna have a really hard time sustaining that over time. Like you're gonna burn out so quickly. So
I know a lot of people like that have burnt out like that too. Like if you're always in that mindset of more, better, like it's just a gnarly path. You'll burn out, and then you'll be like, I don't even like filmmaking anymore.
Yeah, you can't always get better. Like it gets to a point you get hit a ceiling. And it's like, then what you got to do is take a step back and like reinvent what you're doing. Like reinvent. It needs to happen pretty consistently, especially with how many people are out there now that want to do something similar. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to stand out, is to continually kind of reevaluate what you're doing and see how you can do things differently. And it doesn't necessarily mean more efficiently or more money or bigger projects. What it means is, how can I do something that I love just ever so slightly differently? Like it's really all that means. It doesn't need to be a massive change. If it is, that's totally fine. But I think people get caught up in feeling like they have to kind of stay, again, like in their lane creatively, and trying new things and really kind of reevaluating what you're doing very regularly is really healthy, Totally. So I think, to kind of close this out, I think, this year has been tough for everybody, and in many different ways, but I think the thing that's impacted people the most is a lot of what we've talked about today. A lot of really kind of feeling like the stuff you're making is not good enough. Maybe you're really kind of tied at home and you can't travel, or you can't do the things that you normally do to feel creatively fulfilled, or even just fulfilled in life. And I just want to put it on the record that that's okay. It's okay to feel these things. It's okay to feel like what you're making is not enough, because look, 100 years ago, people weren't comparing themselves to each other, to every single human being on the planet Earth like they are now. It's an open book now, and you can see everything that everyone's doing, and it's up for criticism. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's not really what they want. And to people who are watching right now, like if you are feeling any sort of things like that, like a lot of people are this year, myself included, like you gotta take a step back, and especially with this next year looming, and even if you're watching this a year from now, you got the next year coming up. Like it's really important to just take a second, breathe, and like realize that you gotta find what's important to yourself first and foremost, and apply a lot of what we've talked about here. It's okay to switch things up. It's okay to not feel like what you're making isn't very unique at the moment, like, but really continually evaluate that, and talk with yourself and really kind of figure out what you enjoy doing. Honestly, like it sounds so simple, but it really is like going down to your core values, and also to like what you really enjoy the most about what you do, and trace it back to when you started. Like again, you and I have been doing this for so long, and the only reason that we're still here today is because we've done a lot of what we're talking about, and we're able to kind of work through these feelings and emotions, and overall just like grind through life. It doesn't need to be this 24/7 like grind fest, but like it really does need to be consistent. You need to be consistent even when things don't really feel like they're trending upwards. And the reality of it is, like, life isn't always an upward trajectory. And it's super important to just take, I think, a lot of what we said today and just kind of start to apply it over the next couple months, and just kind of feel like at the very least you're making strides within yourself. And again, like, I think it's just so important to really enjoy what you do, and so many people who are even doing things creatively don't enjoy what they do. And now's a great opportunity to take a step back and figure out what do you enjoy doing, But I think it's been really great talking to you today. I really appreciate having you on and talking through all of these things. And if people want to check out any of your filmmaking work, just go to YouTube.
Yeah, if you guys are wanting to check out like a lot of the stuff I'm doing with Moment, like the behind the scenes stuff, I'd say go to my Instagram, Mike_Dewey. I share a bunch of silly stuff on the shoot, Niles and I goofing around, having fun, some of the behind the scenes of the creators, and I try to post some like fun moments from the shoots and stuff on that account, some of my travel stuff as well, and then of course my YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Mike Dewey. So
Beautiful, man.
haven't uploaded in a year, but after this conversation, I'm feeling
Pretty
inspired. So I need to get out there and create now. But I'm actually excited. This was perfect time to have me on because it's taken me a year or two to step back from everything and clear my head a little bit personally, just from everything we've talked about is so real, whether you're starting off or you're further in your filmmaking. Even the top people I've talked to that are these people that people are like, this guy's exploding, he's the top. Everyone feels the same way. Like it has the same creative funk. So it's not just something when you start off. So I feel like for me, I've gotten some clarity over the last couple of years, and I'm now really excited for this next year. I feel like I'm excited to make stuff that I want to create and stuff that makes me happy, and kind of stop thinking about everything else that's going on and buzzing around, and just focus on the stuff that makes me happy and what I'm proud of. So
Absolutely, man.
I'm excited for the next chapter in the next year.
It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on, dude. It's been super fun.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, guys. Well, that concludes today's episode with Pacific. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know for me, that was a great conversation. Just chatting about a little more personal, ideas and, like thoughts that creatives have on a pretty regular basis, especially this year where it's been so tough. And I want to do more videos like this, just kind of demystifying what it feels like to, kind of continually make stuff that goes on the internet and, just talk about like the things that I know we all are feeling deep down. So if you guys enjoyed this one, definitely leave a comment down below. If you guys had a question for Mike, I'll make sure he sees those. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Happy New Year, and we'll get right back to regular uploads in January. Take care and happy holidays.